Hey guys, Cargath here again, and today we're going to talk about the Super Conqueror here, the Tier 10 British Heavy. So, first thing of note, as always, we're going to look at the crew. 4 crew members, Commander, who, like in all tanks, is 6th Sense, Brothers in Arms, Recon. But the beautiful part is he's not the radio operator, so you can immediately take repairs or Eagle Eye, or if you really wanted to, you could take Jack of all trade. But remember, 6th Sense, Brothers in Arms, Recon first. I'd highly recommend repairs, and then go from there on your 5th skill. Now with the gunner, Brothers in Arms, Snapshot, repairs. I'm going for Deadeye for my 4th skill for that module damage, but if you wanted to take a different gunner skill, go for it. But Brothers in Arms, repairs, Snapshot for the first ones. Now on the driver, I took Brothers in Arms, Preventative Maintenance, and Smooth Ride. Obviously, you want Brothers in Arms and Smooth Ride just for the increased combat capacity. Preventative Maintenance really makes it so you're less likely to catch fire. So often you run food on the Super Conqueror, you don't want to catch fire. Then for the loader, he's a little bit pressured because he's also the radio operator. You have Brothers in Arms, situational awareness for that view range. Then I'm taking safe stowage to help protect that ammo rack, then repairs. So moving on to the ammunition. The interesting part here is it's really all the same round. So if you're in competitive play, just load this gold. There's really no difference between these ammo other than higher penetration, higher shell velocity. There is no heat ammo, it's just AP composite. So this ammo is strictly speaking, the gold ammo is better in every way. It has significantly increased pen, it has increased shell velocity, it has no weaknesses versus the armor piercing. Now, something of note to pay attention to is this high explosive ammo. 120 pen. If you're shooting at the butts of anything or any lightly armored tank, this will pen. 120, guys. Remember that HE ammo. Now, when we go to look at the equipment, I would highly suggest Vents, Rammers, Turbo. Now, if you wanted to go V-stabs, you could, but this is a very, very accurate heavy tank. The V-stabs are kind of unnecessary, and you really want to maximize that DPM with the rammer and the vents being in the slot 1 unless you have some kind of improved vents. And I highly suggest turbo just to get to that position faster. So often you are just outmatched in speed when you're up against any chieftain. Having that turbo lets you get there just a little bit faster, lets you work that ridge line just a little bit better, makes your tank just a little bit more dynamic. Obviously, if you decided you didn't want that speed, you could look at the mod config to protect all your modules, or you could look at improved hardening to give you that little bit of extra HP. But I would highly, highly recommend the turbo for all competitive play just for the speed. Now, when we go to look at the consumables here, I have small ones on. Let's take a look at that. Large repair kit, first aid kit, and I like to run food. Obviously, if you don't want to run food, run that extinguisher. I would highly, highly recommend running food. It just boosts this tank a little bit higher. Now, let's go ahead and go to Tanks GG and take a look at the armor. Alrighty guys, here we are back on Tanks GG. We're going to take a look at the armor model here for the Super Conqueror. So something of note, which is really what makes this tank so interesting, is these white parts, spaced armor, spaced armor, spaced armor. So if you're shooting heat, HE ammo in there, you're gonna have a hell of a time avoiding these spaced armor parts. So remember, if you're shooting heat, you really need to avoid the spaced armor. You need to avoid the tracks. It's really, really key. And when it comes to the Super Conqueror, something to me you mentioned. So right now I have a 277 shooting at the Super Conqueror. It has a compoler here, but look at that. It's a ricochet. If you get above it, it becomes very penetrable. But if it's hull down at all, or you're even essentially on the same height of it, you're not really going to hit that compoler. Obviously, this lower plate is extremely juicy. Even the upper plate can pen, but make sure the lower plate is really the best part. But if you do load in the heat, obviously this stays good. Do not shoot into this spaced armor. And now you can hit the compoler. That little bubble there on the lower part becomes penetrable because it just changes the angle, allowing you to get that pen. Now, something also to remember, even when you're on the standard ammo, look at this little band right under the gun. It's got a chance to pen, but if you load gold, Look at that. This little band right here, very penetrable. Right here, along this lower part, very penetrable. And just keep in mind, if you're in another Super Conqueror shooting at this is something you can always pen. Right here to the sides of this spaced armor, basically just outside the mantlet, essentially. Right along this band. That's obviously the place to shoot if you can. Now, this tank is a decent side scraper, as you can see. It's got all this spaced armor. It's an okay band there. It's not bad. Once it starts to over angle a little bit, though, there's some bands here right on the side, right where it kind of bubbles around, that become penetrable, especially with heat ammo. But something really important to know about this tank, if you're in close, you're brawling with it, you've closed the engagement, you're in your 277, you're up next to Super Conqueror, you're kind of wrapping around each other. This engine deck, 17 millimeters. You will overmatch that instantly. So if you can get up next to it and put your gun right here, say you can't get a shot at the side, you can't get a shot anywhere else, you can overmatch that engine deck, even making it a really easy shot there. That's just something to remember if you're in a 277 versus a Super Conqueror, or really if you're in any tank shooting down at this plate. It's 17 millimeters. You can load HE and fire HE into the top of this engine deck all day long. And again, remember, a lot of Super Conquerors run food. If you cause a fire, you're going to cause an additional 5, 6, 700 damage potentially. Load those HEs, get those shells into the top of this engine deck whenever you can. It's super, super effective to remember that. Now, again, just remember, when you're shooting at this tank, watch out for this spaced armor plate, spaced armor, and even this is spaced armor. Remember, if you're shooting at the cupola, load that heat. That's where it's going to go in. Watch out for these weak points. Alrighty, this has been Kargath. Good luck out there, guys.